This lesson is about a technique that I use on solo acoustic guitar gigs. They're singer-songwriter kinds of things, and it kind of evolved organically, but it's a integration or a combination of the Texas Shuffle feel. Stevie Ray Vaughan would be an example of that kind of thing, and playing jazz standards solo guitar where you walk bass lines while playing chords. So I had these two styles of playing that were very compartmentalized. The jazz gigs were solo instrumental usually. Maybe I would sing some, but they were mostly background accompaniment to fine dining or art shows or, stuff like that. And the Stevie Ray Vaughan thing was in the context of a band, pop music. And never the twain shall meet. Well, in the 90s, when MTV Unplugged became very popular, a whole bunch of acoustic style or unplugged style gigs started happening. And it started off with a band, but it spun off into solo gigs. What happened was, the issue was, when I played these solo acoustic gigs, they were more of a singer-songwriter format, had to sing, had to, patter with the audience and whatnot. I lost a couple gigs because I was too laid back. I was kind of using the solo jazz thing. So I figured out that I needed to adapt and play more aggressively and be peppier and, more energetic for these unplugged type gigs. So the first thing that I did was I adjusted the song list. I did a lot, in the old days, the singer-songwriter thing, I did a lot of James Taylor and Van Morrison and stuff like that, mostly fingerstyle. And so I adapted tunes. If the tune was very laid back, I would pep it up. I would increase the tempo, and I started hitting 2 and 4 muted. That's where the drummer hits the snare drum. So, for instance, Into the Mystic by Van Morrison is kind of laid back. Originally, it's something like, we were born before the wind, also younger than the sun. I started doing it like, we were born before the wind, also younger than the sun. So peppier, more driving. And another thing that I would do, like Bob Dylan's Don't Think Twice. I used to do that finger style, Travis picking. Ain't no use to sit and wonder why, babe. I changed that. Ain't no use to sit and wonder why, babe. If you don't know by now. So it's a lot more energetic. So that was the first thing I did. Being the kind of guy, and I'm interested in bass lines, and so I would do things like has a tune called My Friends by the Chili Peppers, and those bass lines aren't part of the original guitar part, but I would throw those in, and I pretty much did that on the fly, on the gigs. It evolved. I wanted to start doing a few standards, jazz standards, and the technique for solo guitar and jazz standards involves, it's fingerstyle, and it involves so you see You got the bass line walking, and the chords are plucked on the upbeat. 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So that was too laid back. The Texas Shuffle, the Stevie Ray Vaughan, Pride and Joy, for instance. Okay, so you hear that? You hear this bass line? And in between, there's really not much going on. You're not fingering chords, it's just a sound. So you have that chunk, chunk, chunk on the upbeat. So what I did was, I played jazz standards with the Stevie Ray Vaughan Texas Shuffle feel. Maybe straightened it out a little bit to make it swing more. But Satin Doll, for instance. See what's going on there? So on the upbeats, I'm fingering chords as much as I can, the way I would playing jazz. But if I can't grab a chord on every upbeat, you hear that, and that propels it. So, cigarette holder, which wigs me over the shoulder. She digs me out the cabin. My satin doll, baby, can we go out skipping? Careful, amigo, you're flipping, speaks Latin. My satin doll, well, she's nobody's fool, so I'm playing it cool. I like to give her a whirl, but I ain't for no girl catching me. Telephone numbers, well, you know, doing my rumbas with you know, and then my satin doll. So that's way peppier than doing cigarette holder, which wigs me over her shoulder. So doing the standards with Stevie Ray Vaughan feel, Texas Shuffle feel, solved the problem of too laid back. When you get into tunes that have one chord change per bar, in other words, you have 4 beats to deal with on the bass line, the upstroke in the shuffle, this Texas Shuffle feel, is even more important because you can't grab a chord after every bass note. An example of that would be Fly Me to the Moon. Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Want to feel what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, kiss me. So you see, you got it gives it a much more energetic propulsion. So that's the story of how I integrated the Texas Shuffle with jazz standards. I basically only do this on solo acoustic gigs. If you got a bass player, you don't need to do it. on a jazz gig that's more laid back, I don't do it that way. It's too in your face. But on solo acoustic guitar gigs where I'm doing a lot of singing, it's more of a singer-songwriter presentation, I have found that technique to work really well.